Okay, we're going to do the third column now. So Anita and I did this, but we didn't quite know what to do with my favorite pattern. Her favorite pattern was this, and my favorite pattern was that, you see. Whereas I would ask leading questions and get people to do the right thing and say yes but, and discount if I didn't agree with someone, etc., etc. In my worst community. I didn't do it all the time. So we didn't quite know what to do with these, you see, because what they seem to do is to vector or to orient. So if you're talking and I interrupt you, I'm re-vectoring. I am taking the conversation away from you and leading it something else. If I want you to follow me and I ask you a leading question, I'm going to ask you a question where you're expected to know the answer. You're having a good time here, aren't you? Thank you. This is really very simple, isn't it? Okay? Okay, so that is vectoring or leading the communication to where you want it to go. Now, if you give a reinforcement, or mostly an impersonal reinforcement, if you're doing that, you're also orienting to do more of what you're doing already. And then if you come down here, you've actually got your subgrouping. So here, there's evidence that you've heard the other person and you've built on it. You want to be a little bit more savvy about what a work joke is. Yeah. Work joke.
Okay.
Yeah. Now this column, you don't know which way that's going to go, do you see? I mean, this is a row. You really don't know what's going to happen next. So you really can't see the value of it until you code it. Down here, if you see that, then this is really interesting because including in therapy, if you don't get, this was a big shock to me. I thought therapy took place here, you see. I thought it was in inner feelings, feeling questions, answering a feeling questions, mirroring my experience, me mirroring their experience, an affectionate joke every so often if I wasn't a psychoanalyst, and the self-assertion, you see. All of that was going to do the therapy. Doesn't work. Big shock. That doing the therapy is fueling the information here into facts, figures, etc. And that is the problem-solving pattern. And if you don't have that problem-solving pattern, you're not going to solve anything. When Josh and I were working, when we worked for Josh's feelings, we were resonating. I was feeling bad for human beings and me that I do negative predictions, and I was feeling bad for Josh, and Josh was free to feel however he felt for himself. That was in resonance. I don't know how you'd code that, because we were actually up here, you see. But if you're up here without resonance, sooner or later, the group or the client or your best friend is going to move up here because of what we noticed at the beginning, which was, if there is noise in the communication channel, we have an impact. We're going to get either annoyed or frustrated or vague, or we're going to disappear. And therefore, inside us is going to be some of the experience from the top row, the red light behaviors. And also, noise in the channel induces roles. And they're not the roles that are necessarily helpful. They're the old roles that we developed along the way to getting to where we are now, which manages the frustrations that we've been having in interpersonal relationships before. So they're an import of past roles into the present, which makes more noise in the communication channel. So it's very easy to go down the tubes. Very, very easy. And this lets you know, is the group going down the tubes, or is the group coming into a problem-solving pattern in which they can solve experiences. Okay, we've got plenty of time to ask questions.
When you said that you go from sort of category 7 up to 5 and 6 for the information to really integrate, did you mean 7 to 5 and 6, or did you mean green to yellow?
I mean green to yellow and back again.
Okay.
Because you see, you need facts, don't you? You need information. If you don't have information from here, you don't have the ability to solve problems because there's no information. 4, yes. This is an important category because, you know, anyone who's trying to cross from person to member, I'm sure none of you have any difficulty with that. You just automatically cross from person to member. But if you want to know where you are, listen to your communication pattern. And if it's all about you, you're in now, being in person isn't necessarily bad. Being in person is very useful when you're a member of your person system, because that's how you survive, develop, and transform. But it's not so good if you are also wanting to communicate with your context or your environment. Because if you want to communicate to your environment, what you say has to have something to do with the other people in your group. So if you stay in person system and a member of yourself, you can be in a group and you can learn a lot about yourself, but you're not much use to the group. You're not helping build the group. Do you see that? Yeah? That the requirement of being a member is your person system being aware that there's a context that is bigger than you. You're not the only system in the world. You're actually a person system existing in a larger environment. And if you're going to have a useful impact on the larger environment, you have to become enough of a member of the larger environment to see what the larger environment goals are. And that is what we say when we say role, goal, and context. We bring the role from our person system that is going to help the goal of the context get actualized. So I've got a lovely, lovely unpopular thing to say to you. When you're working in an organization, your boss is probably going to be driving you crazy, okay? Your job as a member is to survive being driven crazy by your boss. Your job as a member is to cooperate with your boss as best you can so that your boss does his job as best as he can to influence the department, which is then going to be a climate that helps you do your work. Now, isn't that annoying? Okay?
Very annoying.
It is, yeah. That your job as a member of an organization is to help the boss do his job so that you are freer to do your job. Which, when we have the authority issue, of course, isn't true.
So, in the same terms that you're talking about, what then is the job of the boss?
Do the same sort of thing with his superiors. So that instead of running the whole thing by the authority issue, you start running it in terms of the roles that are useful to the goals of the organization.
And if there isn't a boss, then the boss is, in a sense, the goal of the organization.
Well, we've always got a boss, even if we make them up. You know, we're always fighting the authority, aren't we?
Yeah.
Anyone who's not fighting authority in this group?